Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Well, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Apex Racing TV and our live coverage of Rebel Team's Pro Challenge exhibition. This is an upcoming series that we've got coming to you on Apex Racing TV over the coming weeks. But before we get started for the regular season, we'll talk about that a little bit later on. We've got a pro exhibition race with a lot of very talented drivers out there on the circuit, as you can see here at Suzuka International Racing Course in some lovely F3 cars, which always give us some great racing as well. Dane Bear here alongside Aaron Smith. We got Lewis Ward up in the virtual production trailer, aka Corby. And so, Aaron, welcome to the booth. We've got F3 cars, which seem to be, apparently, as you told me before we went live, your speciality on the iRacing service. Around Suzuka, what can we expect?
Well, we can definitely expect some close and hard racing. I can definitely sense some sends, especially into turn one on lap one. In these cars, following isn't too easy, but when you get that opportunity, you have to take it into spoon, into the hairpin, into turn one. There are so many overtaking opportunities, but it's going to be a challenge. But I think, as you rightly say, it's going to be an entertaining one.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And heading into the first corner as well, which is aptly named First Corner. That is the actual corner name on the circuit. You'll love the last corner name as well. We'll get to that. But yeah, first corner, it is a very tricky braking zone. You are turning the entire time because the first corner isn't really much of a corner. Into the second part of that first corner is, it's a really tricky braking zone. You're turning, you've got AstroTurf on the outside. As we will probably see at some point today, you've got those Suzuka curbs. And if you don't know what I'm talking about when I say Suzuka curbs, you've clearly never driven Suzuka on iRacing before, because the curbs have a slight lip on the outside. And if you go slightly over them, only slightly, if you go all the way over them, this doesn't happen. Only if it's a slight amount. You go over them, you touch the AstroTurf, and around your car goes. There is absolutely nothing you can do to avoid it. And it is going to catch out a couple of the drivers here today, I am sure. You see a lovely swooping shot through these S's and up towards Dunlop Corner. So where do you think we're going to see sort of the most overtaking happening? Because obviously a lot of the circuit, fairly narrow and quite twisty as well. So not too many opportunities here.
Yeah, not at all. But like I was saying before, that dirtier, especially in that first and second sector, is pretty strong in these Formula 3 cars. But I think the most overtaking opportunities we're going to see is, I mean, it's a bold one, but I think it's going to be 130R and into turn one. As that long run out of spoon, it gives you that good slipstream, which is very powerful in this car and is going to give a huge opportunity for these drivers to send it up the inside and hopefully keep it clean, as we don't want to see any big accidents. Of course, we have many talented drivers in this grid. Some, I think, are around, most drivers actually are around 7k, which, you know, is just unheard of for the normies like you and me. And yeah, we can expect some racing like no other today.
Just getting over the normies like you and me comment there, but yeah, we'll see how this goes. Into the pit lane goes Danny Yinkadea there. We will see a lot of very big names. One of them is slightly hidden. If you look down to 8th position, we've got Antonio Felix da Costa on the grid, which is not something that, you know, you expect to say on your everyday sim racing broadcast, but here is the man himself. Obviously, if you don't know who Antonio Felix da Costa is, then where have you been for the last, I don't know, 10 years? You know, he's kind of a big deal in the world of motorsports, and joining us here today, a little bit loose into turn 1. That's what I told you. It's a very difficult braking zone, and into the barriers goes da Costa and turns around and loses the front of the car as well. I don't think we could have picked some worse timing to take a look at Mr. da Costa there. However, we'll go back on to Yinkadea. Here we are in practice, as you can see in the top left corner of your screen. We'll have a little bit of a chat about what we actually have coming up today. A 20-minute qualifying session, an open qualifying session. We'll talk about that a little bit, as well as that session progresses in around 5 minutes or so. And then a 40-minute race in these F3 cars around Suzuka, which should give plenty of opportunity for mistakes, hopefully lots of overtaking to be happening, but we'll see how the drivers perform. One man looking like he is very confident around this place is Danny, because look at this, he's already over a tenth up on Langveld just behind as well, and looking just basically like he's cruising around the circuit at this point.
Yeah, he looks really strong, and when we were just riding on board through these last few corners, his car just looks really stable. Through there, a little bit of understeer through Spoon, but yeah, he just looks really calm and collected. He's not really fighting the car too much. He looks like he's under control mostly, and yeah, I mean, if he can keep this form up, I think he might be the one to beat during this race. But the field is fairly close, to be honest. The top 8, actually only top 9, separated by 0.6 of a second. And yeah, that you can already tell that this race is going to be a little bit spicy.
Yeah, and of course, with these drivers, they are, of course, all very skilled in their craft. We've got Bortolotti in 4th place at the moment, only 0.2 off of Yungadea's fastest time, and they have been going at it for a while as an unnamed driver heads off and towards the wall on the outside of Degner 2, and Bortolotti getting a little bit over the curbs there, getting a little bit loose as he does so. The car riding up a little bit on those curbs, bottoming out. Wheels no longer touching the ground. It's not how you'd like your Formula 3 car. They are very stiff cars, of course, and as such, you don't really want to be unsettling them if at all possible. Bortolotti, 2011 F2 champion, so has some good open wheel experience. It was a long time ago, let's be real here. More recently, moving into the GT space, as a lot of drivers tend to do as well. Really competitive fields in the GT series nowadays as well. But here it goes the Italian through 130R, which is not a corner in these F3 cars. Let's be real, the downforce on these things, they're so light. They don't have the most speed in the world. It means that they basically just breeze through there without a care in the world.
Yeah, like you say, it's sort of just, okay, I'm going to turn left for a bit now. It's not really too much of a challenge. I think some drivers might run a little bit of a twitchy setup and then it can get a bit sketchy. But yeah, like you say, it's incredibly easy in these cars. They've got so much downforce. Yeah, not too much speed, but they're light and quick. And you don't really notice the speed a lot of the time in these cars, because I mean, half the time you're constantly side by side with someone anyway, so you're kind of trying not to crash into them. But yeah, these F3 cars kind of seem to be everyone's go-to if they just want to have like a chill time on iRacing, because I mean in GTs you have to think a lot more about strategy and a lot more on pace, whereas F3 you can kind of just jump in and have a good time.
Yeah, definitely a sprint racing merchant is the F3 card, the Lara F317 that we do have here on iRacing, and of course it has been replaced in the real world in pretty much every form of motorsport series that uses it. It is a little bit of an outdated model, but I'm not actually going to complain about that. This is my favorite F3 car. I really do enjoy driving this one around. It can be a little bit twitchy, as you were talking about earlier, but we'll see just how twitchy these drivers can get. Obviously, one driver who definitely was showing us how twitchy it can be is Da Costa, who definitely found the limit and went right past it into the first couple corners earlier on. Now following one of our other drivers, I believe it was Morad just in front. But yes, we'll have a look and see a little bit down the line. It was Morad as well. Obviously, Daniel Morad very into his iRacing, as we all should know. I think if you don't know who Daniel Morad is and you are on iRacing, then again, where have you been? All over the place, has his own brand, and does a lot of streaming as well, which is always nice to watch.
Yeah, you do kind of like to see iRacing get a little bit more attention with people like Morad, streaming and putting it out there. As I think iRacing in the past few years has really shot up. I mean, kind of ever since lockdown. It's vastly improved, and we're getting better and better content every single season. And yeah, people like Daniel Morad make iRacing just that little bit better, producing it to a wider audience. And yeah, and we'll see if he can assist with that today.
Now heading down the main straight here, you can see that's going to be something that drivers will try and do, is stick as close as possible into this section. But from here on, if you're following someone, there's only a couple things that's going to happen. First of all, you're going to drop back a bit because you've got the dirty air, which means you have less grip, which means you're going to be having to travel slower around the corners, but also your tyres will be heating up, and that is just a fact. And that just makes it even more difficult to catch up to the driver in front, because then you'll have less grip, not only for now, but until the tyres cool back down again. So it can be very tricky to actually cool those tyres back down again. So see how the drivers handled that over quite a long race. As you can see, the practice session is over. The drivers will be very unceremoniously kicked off the circuit as per iRacing's rules, and we will get started for our qualifying session. It's 20 minutes long, and it is an open session. So usually in iRacing, if you drive in the official series, and a lot of leagues do this as well, is you have a closed qualifying session. You're out on the track entirely on your own, and you can set your couple laps. Usually is only a couple, and then we'll get started for the race. Not today. Today we have an open one, so you've got to worry about the drivers behind you picking up from the slipstream. You don't want that. You don't want to be giving anybody an advantage. You want to try and find that advantage for yourself, obviously. You want to try and get up behind someone. But then you've got dirty air to worry about, so there's a lot that goes into these open sessions.
Yeah, I remember doing the Apex F3 series last year, and depending on track to track, it was touch and go whether you wanted the slipstream on your qualifying lap. I think around a track like this, it's debatable. You do have some long straights, like the start finish straight, obviously, and the run down from Spoon to 130R, but you do lose a lot of time following other cars, especially through that first sector, and it can cost you so much time. And what if the other driver in front of you goes slower than you, or if they make a mistake, then it's completely ruined your lap. And for me, I always preferred being by myself. I felt like I had a lot more confidence just being, I was in control of my own speed and not relying on the person in front of me. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see the tactics in this qualifying session.
Yeah, we certainly will. We see this driver right here in the number 2. That's Ferdinand Habsburg. Doing some weaving down the straight. That's not to try and stay in the draft of the car in front. That's way too aggressive to be doing that. And of course, on an out lap, that is just to try and get some heat into those tyres. And those tyres do not like to be heated up too much, so only a little bit of weaving at the end of the straight. Flatten it through. Last curve. That is the name of the last corner. It is the last curve. And onto the pit straight. Heading down here, you can see the circles on the left-hand side, the diagonal hash markings on the right-hand side for where they used to be the old Lamar starts. And now down into the first corner, a little bit over the curve. As you can see, that's put the car a little bit wide there. Recovers quite well though, but will have lost a couple tenths maybe through this first section. Now through the S's, through the left and the right, and the left again and the right again. Stick as close to the right hand side as you can through here. Try not to run too deep in towards Dunlop now. And then carry that speed up in towards the Degners. As we'll see, Degner 1 and Degner 2. That curb on the inside is pure pain. If you clobber over that, you are going to be sent right to the outside, into the gravel, into the wall, as we saw someone do in practice a little bit earlier on. And into the curb braking zone for the hairpin. And that is the same, it's just the hairpin. Nice and banked. Can see a send or two, especially in the first couple of laps if everyone's grouped up here. So we'll look out for that. Now through 200R and up towards Spoon curve. Double left-hander. Very tricky. You've got some Suzuka curbing on the exit as well. Try not to touch that too much. Very nice by Ferdinand here, and nice track out there too. Don't try and drive through that pit lane, as many people have found out. You can drive straight through it. There might be a car parked there. 130R then, as we said earlier, it's not even a corner. They're not even using all the track. They stay to the inside because that's the quickest way around the corner. And then the last heavy braking zone of the circuit. Get all up over these curves. Try not to unsettle the car too much for the final push out of the last corner. And across the start-finish line, which is here. And what sort of time is that by Ferdinand? It is a 1 minute 53.6. So not quite good enough to make it up onto the top spot, and is now getting cycled back down the order. Junkadea setting our fastest time so far.
Yeah, that lap from Ferdinand kind of looked a bit reserved. Look, I mean, it is the first lap, and the first lap in these F3 cars are sort of pointless. It's nowhere near as fast as you can go, and I think he was just taking it a little bit easy, just trying to get a lap on the board. And we can probably expect a little bit quicker from him this second time around. But at the moment, it's Danny Giancandela on pole, provisional pole at the moment. And I said this before, he really does look like he knows this F3 car well and is looking like the man to beat. But like I said before as well, it's looking almighty close from about first to, I think it was 6th in practice. So yeah, this race, it's going to be very, very interesting to see different strategies of, you know, how aggressive people go, and do they just full attack? Do they save? Because these F3 cars, those tyres, like you were mentioning earlier, they can overheat very quickly. And once they've overheated, it's very difficult to cool them back down again. So it's going to be a game of cat and mouse for probably the top 8 or 9 drivers.
Especially, oh, there's a bit of a rear lock up there, potentially a touch of the grass on entry for Junkadea, and that is, not going to be the end of that run. Interesting. I would have thought those tyres are now well and truly roasted, and you would want to get a new set on. However, not what Danny has opted to do. Instead, we take a look at Mikko Bortolotti over the start-finish line now. Second lap is a lot quicker. Oh no, not a lot quicker. That was Fabian here in the number 3 car, going up onto the top step of qualifying. As I say that, it gets beaten by Nathan Olsen in that number 32 F3 car, the purple with those lovely yellow accents. Here comes Morad across the line. What can Morad do? Right up to the top step. It took a minute to update there, but 151.670 takes the top step of our qualifying by just over a tenth of a second. So lovely little gap there as well. And Junkadea, with that spin heading into the final couple of corners, has dropped down from 1st to 5th now.
Yeah, I might have jinxed him slightly. The lap before, I literally said he had this car under control, and then proved me wrong in the final corner. My commentator curse coming back to bite me again for like the 3rd time this week. Great. I should probably stop talking about drivers and just just aid in the conversation elsewhere. But I was surprised to see Morad do that good of a lap already, and I think that might be fairly difficult for people to beat at the moment. We'll see the track evolve as the session goes on, but that's a really good lap to set on the board already, and it might be a little bit tough to beat.
Well, we'll see now how these drivers opt to go about their qualifying session, because obviously first lap is not the quickest. We've seen that already. You've said it. Everyone on track has improved if they've set a clean lap in their second one. We'll see now as Youngadair. Is this going to be a quick lap? I believe it will, because he's going all the way to the inside to try and minimize the distance between himself and the start-finish line, and that has beaten Morad's time by 0.2 of a second. Bortolotti goes up into second place as well. Morad's lap time is getting beaten left, right, and centre. Cannot quite be beaten by Nathan Olsen, though. We'll see as more drivers come across the line. Here is the man himself in that very brightly coloured F3 car. That is a very striking livery on that one. And across the line for Morad. Is that going to be a quick lap? Was it a cool down? It was. That was 5 seconds off pace. And that's not because Morad suddenly got 5 seconds slower. That was a cool-down lap, letting the tyres cool down, and now this will be the first push lap. A lovely line through the first couple corners here. Very smooth indeed. We'll follow along on board and see what this lap turns out to be. All up and over the curbs here for Morad. Through the S's section, here we'll go. Nice and tight to the inside here. You'll see not running too wide there to optimize the run out of Dunlop. If you run too tight to the left-hand side, that corner becomes very tricky indeed. Up and over the crest, back down towards the Degners. Almost no curb taken on the inside of the first one. Missing the curb on the inside for the second part as well. That's how you like to do it. Those curbs are huge. They might not look so big, but in the car, especially in these stiff F3 cars, they will do a lot of damage to your lap time. Lovely apex there for the hairpin. A little bit of oversteer on the exit. Got the power down a little bit too quickly, perhaps. But we're looking for a 3.5 decrease even in lap time, as Langeveld has also made his way up into the top of the timing tower by another 10th over Youngadair. So I feel like this qualifying session is getting quicker and quicker as we go along. Youngadair across the line. That was not a fast lap, and you can tell because Youngadair likes to cut it to the inside when he finishes a quick lap, and tends to go around the outside when setting up a hot lap from the beginning. So we'll see a couple more drivers coming across the line. We'll wait for Morad to finish that lap that he was setting earlier on. Coming through the KTO triangle now, last curve. And what sort of lap time is it going to be? Cutting to the inside, getting to the start-finish line as quickly as possible for Morad. What lap time is it? Oh, it's slow.
Ooh. Yeah, that's... It looked fairly okay, and considering, you know, some of these guys are doing slowdown laps, which does make your lap time a lot quicker. As I remember a couple months ago during IGP Fun F3, another very competitive Formula 3 league, some drivers used to do a tactic where they do around 4 or 5 laps, slow down for another lap, and then they'd go about half a second quicker. It really gained you that much time. As like I said before, these hand-cooked tires, well, I mean, it's in the name. They cook. They really do overheat incredibly quickly if you're not careful. And especially in these qualifying sessions where you're pushing the car to the limit, you're sliding all over the place, you're on low fuel, you're sending it as hard as you can. Those tires are screaming out for help, and giving them a lap to cool down makes you go that little bit quicker.
Just had a look at currently the driver on the top of the qualifying tower, Niels Langeveld, and not really the type of car you would usually pair him with, because you've got a lot of touring car driving experience with Niels, especially in recent history. Obviously, a couple of championships across Europe in various TCR categories. But doing very well here in this high downforce, basically as far opposite TCR as you can get.
Yeah, it is pretty much the exact opposite. TCR, you have little to no downforce. You have a bit, obviously, but these Yeah, not as powerful engines, but I believe I might be wrong on that. But yeah, these cars are so light, have so much downforce. They're on slicks as well. It's a completely different ball game, but he's making really good use of it. We've got around 8 minutes of this qualifying session left, so still a lot of time for other drivers to improve. But like you say, it's fascinating to see these drivers coming from a series which is completely different to this and putting it up high. And yeah, that was a bit of a wiggle around the final corner there for Daniel.
Yep, the Dutch driver there, a little bit of a wiggle coming out of the final corner. Just a little one. Managed to keep hold of it, that's all that matters. As back through the S's, Nils will go. Last lap was a good one. 51.314, that sits in 1.2 or 0.12 seconds, sorry. Up ahead of Junkerdea, who was leading pretty much from start to finish in the practice session as well. So, see how this little rivalry in qualifying ends up. We've got just over 6 minutes to go, so still good amount of time to set another couple of laps, maybe even 3 if you're not going to have a slowdown in between. Leandro Mendes now making his way through. This is definitely setting up a quick lap. That is not the optimal exit of the final corner, so it's trying to set something up. And makes his way down the main straight. Here comes Jordanovski. What sort of lap time is that going to be? Comes across the line. Didn't even set a lap, so that was an out lap. It looks like a couple of drivers actually, yeah, did go into the pit lane. Possibly for new tyres, possibly for some fuel. We'll see exactly how that's all going to pan out as some drivers come across the line. Da Costa sets another time, but that is a good couple seconds off, so that will be a setup lap as well. I feel like we're coming towards some quick laps being set by our drivers. Here we go. Niels across the line. What sort of lap time is that going to be? Still nothing. So we're still waiting for some quick times. Olsen sets a new personal best, but it's not quite good enough to gain any positions.
Yeah, I think it's going to be those final, I'm going to say like 3 or 2 minutes where we're going to see those times really starting to ramp up. As yeah, I think that was awfully close coming out of turn 2, but yeah, some drivers chose to go in the pits and completely go into the pits. Some drivers just chose to have a quick pit stop and put a bit more fuel and fresh tires on, and be interesting to see what works and what doesn't. And yeah, I don't know about you, Dane, but I genuinely at the moment have no clue who's going to get pole.
I think it's going to be one of those top 2. I don't think anybody else is going to have quite what it takes to grab the top spot. Bortolotti, if he puts in an impressive lap time, could do. But we'll see now as Junkerdea into these final few corners now in this F3 car, looking to... It looks like this is going to be a setup lap because that doesn't look like the quickest way into the KCO triangle. So another setup lap potentially, definitely a setup lap. That's about as wide as you can get through Suzuka's final curve without hitting the grass. And let's see, are any drivers going to set us some quick lap times? Felix da Costa across the line. It is a personal best. It is not enough to gain any positions. Bortolotti, however, has done just that and up into second place. And goes Mirko there. Langeveld across the line sets a new fastest lap of the session. It's a 151.218, further increasing that distance between himself and any drivers behind. Daniel Morad now across the line. This looks like it's a setup lap as well. So wait, yep, definitely a setup lap, 157.165. That is not on pace at all. But that is a very, very quick and impressive lap time from Niels in this very, very yellow F3 car. The helmet's yellow, the car is entirely yellow, there's nothing else on this car except yellow.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to call this one the banana car, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of reminds me of the old Jordans back in the early 2000s, and I'm not complaining at all. Those cars looked absolutely gorgeous, and if you disagree with me, then you're wrong. They were amazing, and I wish they were still in Formula One. I wish we had more yellow liveries overall in motorsport. I don't think there's enough. Bit of a shame, to be honest.
Get a big old DHL sponsorship on a car and just go ham with it. Right, let's see. Danny Nkadea. That was a setup lap, the previous lap time, a 154.767. We'll see now, looking very quick through that corner. Not happy with it? Not happy with it. We go again for Danny Nkadea. That was a 51.7, so still half a second off our fastest time, and I believe this will be the last lap. Potentially. No, it will not. It will not be the last lap that Nkadea gets. My maths, never trust a commentator's maths. I will always say this. So we go on, and I think now is about the time where drivers will be cutting it very fine if they want to set another couple of laps in this session. They will probably only have one more attempt. We'll see now as Morad, going to set up a lap time now. Final opportunity for Morad to improve. So as it stands right now, Lankefeld up on the top spot and looking to take that front row position.
Yeah, he looks incredibly strong in that F3 car, and again went quicker a few laps ago. But it's going to be really close with Morad. I'm not actually sure if he will be able to finish this lap or not. But I mean, as you said, never trust a commentator's maths. So, I could be completely wrong, and he has plenty of time to finish off. But I think this final lap, we're going to see the drivers pushing the hardest. And we've actually not seen, I'm surprised actually in this qualifying session, we've not really seen anyone making big mistakes or... we've had a few spins from the likes of Giancandella, but no major crashes or anything. But here come the drivers on their final push laps. Here's Mendes as he comes across the line. Can't quite improve. That was not a good lap at all, of 52 dead. Here comes Daniel across the line. Can he improve from 9th? Not quite. I don't actually think he was able to set a time there. But this is the lap that we were all paying attention to. Giancandella crosses the line now. Is it going to be an improvement? No, it's not. Surprisingly, just a little bit slower than his previous lap. Here's Bortolotti across the line as well. Again, can't improve. None of these drivers really improving at all, Dane.
Yeah, that they're not. Costa across the line as well, and that's not going to be a quick enough lap time either. All of these drivers, I believe... You can never be sure in iRacing's qualifying system until the session actually does kick the drivers off the track, whether or not they'll get to finish the lap that they're on. So we'll find out now. It'll be a couple seconds from now, or we'll keep going. It looks like we're going to keep going here. So drivers that are currently on a lap time will still get to finish it. I believe Nkadea is currently on a lap. You've got Felix da Costa also on a lap. So a couple drivers here who we're looking at to do better. Quite frankly, as Nkadea looking to get up into that practice time and start getting up onto the top of this timing sheet. We will see as through the middle sector, Danny will go in towards Spoon Curve now, through the left, straighten it up a little bit, back through the left again, get a late apex, grab that exit curb up, and throw yourself down the back stretch. That is... again, literally what it's called. Very descriptive corner and areas of the circuit names here at Suzuka. And now through 130R through the left. A little bit of curb being used there. Running a bit wider than we've seen some other drivers going. Now hard onto the brake pedal. Using the curbs to rotate the car. Coming down towards the line. It's looking quite quick. Looking happy with this lap time is Nkadea. As close to the wall as possible across the line. What time is it going to be? Oh, it's only good enough for second, but only by 0.03 of a second. Nkadea into second position. Now we cast our eyes to Nathan Olsen coming through the final couple corners here as well. Possibly up for a top 3 finish in qualifying here. Through the final couple of corners, through the Casio Triangle, out through last curve. Coming towards the line. Where is the Dutchman going to go? It isn't quite good enough to set a new personal best, only a few thousandths of a second off. Morad did cross the line after the finish, I believe, of this session. So I'm not too sure exactly who else we have to wait for. I think possibly Antonio Felix da Costa still has to cross the line. But yeah, we have a look at Morad in 6th position, still getting into the top half of the field. 13 drivers setting a time in qualifying.
Yeah, I'm still shocked at how fairly close this field is, to be honest. Considering how technical this track is, there's a lot of chances to make mistakes. And 7/10 might seem like a lot to cover the top 11. But to be honest, that's not actually that much considering the length of this track as Morad comes into the pits. But yeah, considering how long this track is and how technical it is, I think this race... I think it's going to be a real interesting one to watch. I'm super, super hyped for this.
Well, I think a bit of relief for the drivers as we head into the race, and some clouds have miraculously appeared, meaning that the track will probably be a little bit cooler. But we'll take a look at your starting grid then. It's Niels Langeveld on pole position alongside Danny Junkadea. Not quite good enough to get up onto the top spot, but will still start on the front row of the grid regardless. Nico Bortolotti in 3rd alongside Nathan Olsen. Paul Munich in 5th alongside Daniel Morad. Then we've got Antonio Felix da Costa in 7th alongside Leandro Mendez. And your top 10 in qualifying, Nagy Daniel and Fabian Menetre. Then we've got in 11th position, Jordanovski. About 7/10 off the leader there. Ferdinand Habsburg in 12th position. And then 2 drivers at the back of the field, Paul Duran and Aaron Smith. Aaron Smith wanting to drive some F3 cars at Suzuka, I think, got a bit excited, pressed the race button, not the watch button, and so we will only see 13 cars on the grid. We will hopefully not see Aaron Smith join the back of the grids. I hope, for the driver's sake, I hope, for the rest of the field's sake, I hope Aaron Smith does not appear at the back of the field.
My rig is over there, the temptation to hop on it right now. Just for you, just to annoy you.
I have done that before. We were doing a rallycross broadcast. It was a bit of a meme. It was Halloween. We were doing a fun show, and I accidentally gridded up. And I ended up finishing 3rd in that race. So don't listen to me there, Aaron. We're not having you join the grid. It's not happening. We're waiting on a couple drivers to join the grid, and then we won't get started as soon as everyone's here, because we're still supposedly waiting for Aaron. We're not going to allow Aaron onto the grid. But we will have 13 cars on the grid to get us started. You can see on the right-hand side of your screen is Niels Langeveld. On the left-hand side of your screen is Danny Junkadea. Here come the lights. We are ready to race here at Suzuka. And the green flag waves, and right across the face of the field goes Niels Langeveld. It was a good start initially. Has that potentially got on the inside line through turns 1 and 2? It definitely has. Junkadea trying to sweep around the outside, but isn't going to be able to do it. And now getting a little bit loose, a little bit under pressure as well. A little bit further back. You've got cars going side by side, 4 rows deep. And through the S's, are they all going to make it through cleanly and in one piece? So far, the answer to that question is yes. But there are still side-by-sides going on a bit further towards the back of the field. Out in front, though, Niels Langeveld, well, he's already picked up a bit of an advantage. Danny Junkadea has some work on his hands.
Yeah, crucially, he's already fallen out of that slipstream, and he's got a few corners of dirty air, because even though that slipstream affects you around 0.6 of a second, it does extend to about a second in dirty air. So he's got a little bit of work on his hands if he wants to push and get back into that slipstream. But it's still really, really close throughout the entire field. And like you said, I'm really surprised everyone kept it clean, as there were a few sends here and there, some side-by-side action through the S's, and yet everyone has made it out perfectly fine. And we've still got another 40 minutes of fantastic racing to go.
Yep, that we do. As we'll see, through Spoon Curve we go, and you see at the top left of our screen as well, you've got that little yellow flashing bar. It's very beautiful, and it will be getting smaller. And when that gets to the end, when it gets all the way to just being 1 pixel, that's when we'll be saying the race is over. It's a little bit further back there, Langeveld. We've got some side-by-side into the Chicane, all 3 wide, and is that Morad? It is going all sorts of deep, far to the left-hand side of the circuit, over the grass, and spinning around down to last position in that 13th place. We'll have a look and see exactly what happened, as now you can see it all bunching up in front, and I think everybody was a bit cautious, and Morad said, oh, and there we go. Onto the grass, avoids everybody else, but unfortunately, the grass is going to be spinning you around. So down to the back of the field, and a couple seconds back as well for good measure. And we'll see Morad trying. He's got 40 minutes or so to try and get back up into the pack, but everybody's staying somewhat single file so far early on in this event.
Yeah, it just seemed like Morad kind of braked where he normally would without anyone being in front of him. And I think people in front were just being a bit cautious. I mean, it is lap 1, cold tyres, cold brakes, a lot of fuel. And you can understand why everyone was just a little bit tedious into those final few corners. But second place man, John Candela, I mean, I was about to say he lost a lot of time, but then all of a sudden gained 4 tenths down at the hairpin. So I think Langeveld might have made some kind of mistake there. But don't count Bortolossi out as well. He's getting close. Going for a move into Spoon would be a bit of an ask, but just backs out of it at the last second. But will he have an opportunity on the run down to 130R? Are we going to see some side-by-side action around that corner already in this race? He's gaining ever more. Is he going to go for the move, or is he going to lift off? Nope, he's going to go for it. He's going to push Jun Candela right to the outside. And Jun Candela, smartly lets him through relatively easily, but it's now under pressure from Olsen as well behind. This has been not the best start for Jun Candela at all.
Yep, not an ideal start. Obviously getting cut off immediately from the start of the race. But now look at this. They've closed up to Niels Langeveld. There's only a tenth of a second, and it is rapidly closing as Bortolotti now looking for a move into this first couple of corners. Isn't quite going to get close enough to pull out. However, Costa and Mune a little bit further back, doing battle as well. A couple of moves coming out early on here in the first few minutes of this race. We come to start lap number 3, and it looks like these drivers aren't going to be holding back up until towards the end of the race. They're going to go for it from the start, and that's what I like to see.
Yeah, it's really fun to see. Even though these guys have got a butt ton of fuel and their tyres are cold, they're not quite prepared. They're just going for moves anyway. And like you say, it's really entertaining to see and absolutely amazing. There's a car off in the background. That is Felix da Costa and another car as well. I think that's Mendes as well. They both had an off at Degner too, and Felix da Costa has decided that enough is enough. And I think there might have been contact into there. I saw another car with him behind, but I don't know if he just made a mistake and he nearly got collected. We're going to catch a replay. Oh, no. Oh, dearie me. That was a major error on the exit of Degner 1.
Yeah, you can see already big damage as well to the rear right axle. That wheel is no longer connected, and as such is not going to be of any use to anyone. We'll have a look and see what's happened to Daniel Morad into the Degners. Obviously a bit further back from everybody else, up and over the curbs. Nothing too major, still nothing too major, just a little bit wide. We see that we see the stranded car of Mendes there as well, as we made our way through Degner 2. Now let's have a look and see what we've got on our hand. This gap again, 0.2 of a second, and it is rapidly closing. It's already down to a 10th. This is going to be a move for the lead. I think this is a done deal for the lead. Bortolotti to the inside, and that will be Bortolotti up into the lead of this race. Surely Langeveld can't hold it round the outside through turn 1. Has done so, and now will try and have the inside line, but has to slot in line. Otherwise, you've got Junkadea right behind you, who's going to be trying to make some moves as they make their way through the S's section. Some different lines being taken by the drivers to try and avoid that dirty air.
Yeah, Dane, it sounds like you are absolutely loving this right now. I mean, the top 4 separated by 0.8 of a second. It's this is the beauty of F3 at Suzuka. It's always close. It's always, well, usually clean. And these top 4 producing some spectacular racing right now. Olsen went a little bit wide down the exit of Degner 2. Junkandela in 3rd, just hanging on there as Langeveld seems to be quite good on the brakes and a little bit deeper into the hairpin than the drivers around him. But I think he made a mistake a few laps ago, and hence why he lost that lead that he had. That advantage was around of a second on the first lap, and rather missed opportunity for Langeveld, but he's obviously got another 30 minutes to go.
Yep, now back down this backstretch in towards 130. No moves being made here just yet. But these top three now all separated by 0.2 of a second. Here we go into the Casio triangle. Up the inside goes Niels Langeveld. They almost make contact. Not a lot of space given on the outside. And here comes Juncker there. They're going to go 3 wide, are they, around the final stretch. And here comes Olsen trying to thread the needle through the middle. That's never going to work as some more space is given. They're still side by side now, down the main straight, and Juncker is going to say thank you very much, Bortolotti, for your draft. I'm now going to take your lead from you.
Yeah, and once again, like you say, some sends in this early part of the race. Olsen still trying to look up the inside of Langeveld, but he's just been squeezed out and can't quite make a move up into third. And they're losing a little bit of time. They have to be careful that they don't lose it to the front too, otherwise it will give them a chance to pull away. And look at this as well. It's not out of the question that Mune behind will be able to catch up to these guys, as he's caught them by around a second in that last lap.
Yeah, that almost came completely out of nowhere. That final send from Olsen really caught me off guard, because I was like, okay, these three getting in a battle. Olsen's a bit further back, but then all of them having to check up and avoid hitting each other through the chicane just allowed Olsen to come through and very nearly made something happen there. As we'll see now a replay here. Juncker Day, you can see the two drivers in front going side by side, looking for a kind of switch back. It didn't quite open up for him. Looks to the outside, looks to the outside. That's not working. And here, this is the master right here, masterclass, gets into the draft. And now that side-by-side battle is entirely done. Yukadea into the inside. This is the part that caught me by surprise as well. I wasn't expecting to send up the inside into the lead of the race. I thought he'd be content with just taking second, but no. Goes for the lead as well, and very successfully, and now is pulling out, I was going to say a bit of an advantage, but a bit of an advantage, just 0.2 of a second. It's a very small margin.
Yeah, I mean, racing drivers are never content with coming second, are they? They're always going to want to be in first, no matter the situation. And I don't blame him at all for going for that move. It was completely fair. He had that opportunity, and on that last lap was much quicker than those around him. But the gap is still fairly close. These top four are absolutely no match. Oh, hello, and they're going 3 wide into turn 1. This is the battle for 9th place. And Hasberg, they're just holding on. That's a bit wide from Jodorowski on the outside. He's going to let Morad through. That was so close. I don't know how they did not make contact there. But Morad, after having not the best start to the race, is gaining back those places and is up into the top 10.
Swooping round the outside. Oh, Langeveld off and into the wall! Into the wall goes Niels Langeveld, and I think has just about got away with very minimal, if any, damage. Maybe a slight twist of the front wing. What has gone on here? In 3rd position, through the right-hander, up and over the curbs. Oh, it just bottomed out. And then here, very small tap to the wall. Slightly bent front wing. Other than that, should be able to keep going with very little issue, as it's all kicking off here. Morad looking for a move into Spoon, and the car in front does a very similar thing as to what we just saw happen to Langeveld. Bottoms out over the curbs, very nearly making wing to rear wheel contact here. Morad pushing the car in front. Habsburg down the back stretch, now looking towards the outside. They will go side by side on the run. Up towards 130 they go. And now through the left-hander, side by side, almost a bit of contact. They keep it clean. And now Morad has the inside line for the chicane, makes the move under the brakes. And what's going on there? Duran has gone wide and gone off at the triangle and loses out on a couple 3 places now, as Jordanovsky goes through as well. It's all kicking off for him. Meanwhile, Junkadea has brought out nearly a second's worth of a gap. The Bortolotti out in front, but this isn't over yet, as Habsburg tries around the outside. The turns 1 and 2 over the curbs, and Daniel Morad will retain and keep that 8th position absolute chaos going on here in the mid-pack.
Yeah, and it's producing some amazing racing in these Formula 3 cars. No matter where you look, there's some kind of action going on. Here's what happened to Duran in the final chicane. All that curb just caught him out, and those curbs really unsettle these Formula cars. They cannot handle it as well as the likes of GT3s can, and even then the GT3s around this track struggle. But yeah, Morad putting in some lovely overtakes on that last lap and has pulled out a decent gap to the cars behind, and is putting in a really good comeback after a horrible start to this race. And well, I don't think he's quite done yet. He's got a few more places that he will most certainly be able to gain in this race, and he is going to be one to watch for these next 30 minutes.
Yep, as you say, just under 30 minutes left in this race, and action shows a little sign of slowing down. As I say that, Duran gets over the Suzuka curbs. It's exactly what I was talking about earlier on in practice. Just dipping the wheel over the edge, and that's going to cause all sorts of problems for you. But we cast our eyes and attention up towards the front of the field, because that 7.5 tenths per second gap I was talking about between Juncadella and Bortolotti earlier on, it has vanished. And Bortolotti once again on the back of this very red number 7 F3 car. For the driver up in front, Juncadella is going to hold on to that lead for now, but it is in no means safe. Bortolotti all the way back of this number 7, and Juncadella definitely having to watch those mirrors into all the heavy braking zones. Meanwhile, Daniel Morad has just set a personal best lap in this race as he worked on catching Nagy Daniel in 7th position. Of course, Morad having that off at the first lap into the chicane and dropping back. It was 4 seconds behind the field, 9 seconds off the leaders. Has only lost a second to the leaders since then, and has gained a lot of position as well. Done a lot of battling, so that's quite impressive, I would say, for Morad. And now closing into the back of Daniel, who we've seen quite a few times here on Apex Racing TV, actually, especially in this F3 car. As, it looks like we're seeing a bit of action further back. Jordanovsky has gone off the track and back down to the pit lane. That looks like it was in towards the first Degner, I want to say, or between the two Degners. We'll see now on the replay. Jordanovsky in towards the first Degner. He will go. Is it a touch of grass? No, it's not. Just over the curbs. Exactly what we saw happen to Antonio Felix da Costa earlier on, into the wall. Unfortunately, unlike Niels Lankeveld, has got some damage and resets back to the pit lane.
Yeah, that outside AstroTurf seeming to be an absolute killer for these Formula 3 cars. Hello, we're going to see a move for P2. Nathan Olsen going down the inside at the final chicane. And Bortolotti not really putting up too much of a fight, but was that a little bit of strategic play as he's going to have the slipstream down this main straight, and he's only about 0.3 of a second behind. It might be a little bit too much, I think, as Bortolotti really did not have the best last lap at all. He was about a second off of his counterparts around him, as Juncadella, then he's pulling out a nice old gap, and he's going to have to push. This is Morad making yet another move for P7. He's making some staggering progress back into this race after the start that he had. And, you know, it's all well and good at the moment watching him push like hell, but towards the end of the race, those tyres are going to be absolutely shot, and you know, they're going to be overheating like crazy, and it might come back to bite him in the A.
We'll see now what has happened to Ferdinand. A little bit deep into turn 1, just carrying a bit too much speed in there. Tokyo drifting. It's not quite Tokyo. We're at Suzuka. And doesn't quite get hold of it. Takes it to the infield, but keeps it out of the wall. So, all things considered, not a bad day at the office there. And Olsen retaining that second position, still hanging on to it, but Bortolotti looking very racy behind. And all the while, Bortolotti is around.
What did you say?
Don't. No. Don't put this on me. Don't put this on me. I hadn't even finished saying it yet. The pre-fire commentator's curse is like, you're about to talk about me. Here we go, and sending it onto the death curbs, and around you go. That is Very common. We see that a lot at Suzuka. I have talked about this numerous times at this point. Morad, not done yet, looking for 5th place.
Yeah, I didn't even notice him go for 6th, and there you go. He's already up into 5th. You know, it's kind of what if this guy didn't make any mistakes earlier on. You know, he possibly could be fighting for a podium, maybe even the win. But while he's overtaking them, he's going to have to be watching his mirrors as Daniel and Mentere go side by side into turn 1. It's going to be touch and go for the number 14, but can't quite get a nose in there and just has to sit back through these S's and just wait for a mistake for the 2 in front of him. But yeah, did anyone notice Morad overtake for 6th? He was in 7th, and then
it was 7th. And I think Mune's had a bit of an incident. Mune is now also down to the pits, and I don't remember seeing anything happen to them. I believe they were sitting in 5th place. So I think what's happened is they're sitting in 5th place. They've gone off, and we'll see that now. Thank you, Lewis, our producer up in the production booth. Is it the same thing that's claimed all of our victims so far? It is. That is exactly what happened to Niels Langeveld, but unfortunately, Paul Mune, that is a very, very damaged F3 car, and down to the pit lane they go, and that is the reason why Morad is now up into P5, despite not actually making any extra overtakes. So up into P5, and you can see, thanks to Bortolotti's incident into Spoon, that you can now see Bortolotti. So Morad has another target to lay his eyes on. And yeah, up the road is Langeveld and then Olsen. Olsen now under very little pressure from behind and can now try and focus on retaining that 2nd position. So we do have Morad chasing everybody down. We've got a couple battles going on in the midfield, but up in front, it's kind of spread itself out again. Yeah,
we're kind of in that midpoint during the race where, you know, we've already seen quite a fair few amount of mistakes. I mean, this Suzuka isn't the easiest of tracks, let's be honest. It's one of the more challenging in the entire world, I'd say, to get right. But, I mean, when you do get it right, it's an absolute glorious circuit, which is why it's so eagerly beloved around the world. But, yeah, we're getting to that midpoint where people are starting to settle down a little bit. Those gaps are getting bigger. Everyone's tyres are kind of getting on the edge of being okay. The fuel is starting to come down. This kind of always happens in that midpoint where everyone starts to settle down a little bit, but I can guarantee you in about 5 or 10 minutes it's going to kick off even more than it did at the early stages of this race.
As we take a look now at Daniel Morad going through in towards the Dagnus, looking a little bit twitchy on entry, goes wide, but went wide enough that the curb didn't bottom out the car. So that's the thing, is that all of these weird patches at Suzuka, it's only if you go slightly too much there's a problem. If you full commit to going wide, most of the time, you don't have a problem. It's only if you go slightly wide that it really does bite you, and that is what makes this place so tricky to drive here on iRacing, is because these curbs, it's the slightest dip on the outside of the curbs that just makes a massive difference. And you'll see now through here, this is one of those curbs that never really catches anybody out because it's fairly flat. There's that one on the outside, but through 130R in the F3 cars, that's not a massive issue. But in GT cars and other higher speed Formula cars, it is a huge problem, this curb on the outside now of 130R, because it's very similar to the one that we've seen already cause a couple of drivers problems at Spoon and on the outside of Degna 1/Degna 2 as well. Very nice through there, and Bortolotti again!
Yeah, we just saw him off and into the gravel, and once again, mistake after mistake from these drivers today. They're really struggling in this race as we come into the final chicane. He's looking all right there, but just understeers a little bit out wide and then tries to get on throttle just that tiny bit too early and sends it round, and that's rather spoilt his race. And we've only got 9 drivers now who are still on the lead lap, and it's falling ever more every single lap. And I don't know about you, Dane, but I was expecting a little bit less mistakes in this race.
Yeah, I would, but also they are really easy mistakes to make. Let's be real here. Like, the mistakes that they're making are not trivial ones. They really do. you make the tiniest mistake on entry, mid-corner, the car runs a millimeter wide and you're spun around, and it's little fault of your own. And that does make this car and track combination just that little bit trickier. But whilst these cars are all spread out for the time being, I'm going to have a little bit of a chat, Aaron, about what we've got coming up. Because as I said at the start of the show, this is a pro exhibition race with a lot of pro drivers. But this is not what the whole event is about. It's an exhibition race, but we've got a 4-round season coming up very shortly. And I do mean very shortly. First round is on Saturday, and then every Saturday for the next 4 weeks. We've got the Rebel Team Cup for 2023. And that is an interesting one because it's not just these F3 cars. It is a lot of different cars. We start off 6th of May this weekend at Bathurst in GT3 cars. That is about as different to Suzuka and F3 cars as you can get.
Yeah, it's yeah, and it really is. And I think that's why this championship is going to be fairly interesting, as everyone comes in for a pit stop. And it's actually interesting to see people coming in for pit stops, as in IGP Fun, where the races were 50 minutes long, we never used to come in for pit stops. It might be mandatory, actually. That would make more sense, wouldn't it? That would make a lot of sense. But going back to what you were saying, Dane, yeah, I think the good thing about championships like this, where it's changing every race, is we get to see who adapts the best to each car. And I think that's going to be the best well-rounded driver. And I mean, if they can adapt well to these Formula 3 cars, I think they'll have no problem adapting to other cars as well.
Yeah, so you mentioned some other cars. They go back to the F3 cars, only one. The second round of the championship, F3 cars at Red Bull Ring. So that's going to be a really good one. As we see here, coming out of the pits, we've got a couple of drivers very close together. This is Nagy Daniel getting past. Is that... yes, it is. It's Menetre. Fabian Menetre there. Just about. That looked really sketchy coming out of the Degners, but everyone comes out cleanly, so we're all good. But yeah, second round of the championship, F3 cars at Red Bull Ring. That's going to be a lot of fun. Then we've also got, if I can find my notes once again, Watkins Glen for round 3. Now that's going to be an interesting one. That's going to be a really interesting one in hypercars. I say hypercars. I probably shouldn't call it a hypercar because it's not a hypercar, at least not until 2024, but it's the BMW LMDH. That's going to be great fun. Watkins Glen, always a circuit that we love here on Apex Racing TV, and just in general, it's a fantastic circuit for racing. Then we've got the final round of this Rebel Team Cup is going to be at Le Mans in LMP2 cars. That is my favorite car and track combination. LMP2 cars at Le Mans is absolutely fantastic. As we see a little bit of a move on track here, not quite. Mendes looking for that move, but it's not going to work. As all Habsburg runs a bit deep. Lovely little switch back there by Mendes. They're going to go side by side down this front stretch. As side by side they will go. Neither car, well, they are giving each other the maximum amount of space possible here at Suzuka. They are really giving each other some room. And Mendes is going to try the outside line to turn 1, get over the curbs a bit, and that's not going to work out just yet. It is worth noting, Aaron, that this next Rebel Team Cup is starting on the weekend and will be on the next 4 weekends here on Apex Racing TV. It will not be these drivers competing. It will be anyone can sign up. So amateur drivers to sign up and compete for some prizes. So that's going to be a very fun championship starting very soon in the next few days here on Apex Racing TV. So we're looking forward to that. And thanks to Rebel Team for organising this little pro exhibition race as a bit of a precursor to what to expect when we head racing in that cup.
We're just having a thought. Should we sign up? Should we give it a go? Or not?
I'm not going to be home for any of those weekends. And I tell you what you don't want is a day in bed on the grid on a laptop in Copenhagen. Now that is something you do not want on your grid of cars. You do not want to be lining up alongside. To be fair, you don't really want Dane Bird on your grid, period. Let's be real. It's not going to go well for a lot of people. There's going to be some crashing. It's not going to be a fun time. And that is why I'm incredibly glad that Aaron Smith decided not to join the grid today, despite being in the race.
I would have given these guys a run for their money, I promise you. Hello, side by side through 130R. We haven't seen that race, and oh my word, he did. Wow, that is incredibly lucky from Ferdinand. I think you were thinking the same, Dane. I was expecting them both to make contact, but
on board facing backwards, please, Lewis. On board rear facing camera from Ferdinand, please. I don't know how quickly that's going to be possible. Oh my goodness. How close do you want to get? That is ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous. Do we have a rear-facing camera? That would make me so incredibly happy. On board with Ferdinand. There we go. This is the money shot. You don't see anything yet, but in a second it's coming. Oh, so close. So close. Wow.
I think Ferdinand will be counting his lucky stars. I think Mendes as well. The fact that he didn't slam into anything, he did well to save that and keep it on track.
Yeah, very well. We've lost Duran. Did I miss that happening whilst I was talking? Or did we not see it?
Yeah, I didn't see that either. He looks all wrong through these S's at the moment. The car looks like an absolute boat. He does not seem to be enjoying it. Yeah, I think he might have picked up damage somewhere or has just had enough. He's just pulled over.
Becomes the 5th retirement of this race. 6th non-finisher, but that's because our dear Aaron Smith didn't start the race. That's the last time I'll talk about it. I lie. I will say it one more time, but only once more. You're safe for the next 12 minutes as we wait for this race to make its way to a close. We are around about halfway through, 29 minutes gone, 11 minutes left to go. And here we see the closest battle out on the circuit. Daniel and Fabian Menetre as they make their way through the first corner and into the S's.
Yeah, it's not easy to follow through here at all. And Menetre having that little moment once they came out of the pits, and he nearly bottled it at Degner too, but managed to keep it on the track and is still in 5th place at the moment. But I do want to just mention again, Morad has had a really, really good comeback. I mean, from pretty much last, like 10 seconds down, and is now in 4th. You know, what could have been had he not made those 2 mistakes? I genuinely think he'd be possibly 2nd right now, as he's starting to struggle with those overheating tyres. But yeah, I think he's put in a really good performance.
Just having a look up at the top, because we haven't really spoken about him much since the first few laps of this race. Danny Juncadella has extended that gap up front to around about 7 seconds now, just under 7 seconds, 6.8. That came out of nowhere. That was staying quite stagnant at about 2 seconds for a while, and suddenly it's just massively gone up. So Olsen dropping back a little bit, but Juncadella keeping up that really good pace of 52.3, less than a second off the fast qualifying times that we saw in the qualifying session. After 17 laps, that is mightily impressive, as here we go. Time for a little bit of a battle. Down the front straight away we go, and Daniel in 6th place wants that to be 5th, and all the way to the inside goes Menetre as a defensive maneuver, and now they go side by side in towards this first corner. Daniel on the outside in that 14, Menetre on the inside in number 3. Who's going to come out on top for this? It's always got to be the car on the inside, that's for sure. I will eat my word. How have you done that?
It kind of seems like everything you say, the opposite happens. And
Danny Juncadella will win this race.
Okay, well, if he doesn't, I'm sorry. You should just stop talking just for the rest of time. Now, I'm going to be keeping a very, very, very close eye on that gap at the top now.
Yep. So as will I. But do you know what I'm going to keep an eye on as well, Aaron? Is something that's just been said to me. I've just been told by the organisers of this event, this pro exhibition, and also the 4-round season that will follow. Is the prize for the 4-round season the Rebel Team Cup for 2023? And I feel like this is going to pique a lot of interest. It is 2 VIP tickets to the 2023 24 Hours of Le Mans.
I'm signing up.
The sold out 2023 24 Hours of Le Mans.
I'm signing up right now. I don't care if I have no chance. I want a chance, even if it's 1%.
There is a chance. The chance is very, very small. But it is still there as we see some side-by-side action once again between these two drivers. They will not stop until the checkered flag is out. That's what we love to see. Here we go then. Back at it once more. In towards the first corner. They will go. It's Menetre this time behind Nagy Daniel. And we will see now into the first corner, but we see Ascend. We will not see Ascend, but they're separated by maybe 50 centimeters as they make their way through the first corner. Almost nothing between them. Dirtier at an all-time high and somehow still makes the corner.
Yeah, these guys will not leave each other alone at all. We've seen them battle pretty much since the first round of pit stops. And yeah, I think that's going to continue possibly until the end of this race. We've only got 7 minutes left. And they seem fairly matched on pace. And yeah, you always love to see some nice close battles. This is relatively the closest battle we have on track, and also for 7th as well. But yeah, I was rather surprised at that gap opening up at the top as well. I'm wondering if Olsen maybe made a tiny mistake somewhere, because I mean 6 seconds is quite a lot considering how close it was at the top, and he's not lost since. So bit curious.
Oh, was a look to the inside has caused Nagy Daniel now to take a very defensive and compromised line through Spoon Curve. This could be very beneficial for Menetre if he can make his way through now. Bit of overspeed out of Spoon Curve, and now looking to the inside. That's blocked off. Looks to the outside. That's going to be blocked off as well. Daniel forcing him all the way to the white line. Now through 130 yard they go, side by side over the curbs, and he has to back out of that one, surely. No, sends it up the inside. There goes Menetre, almost making contact between the two of them. Superb defensive driving by Nagy Daniel, and now gets a little bit loose as well on top of things. And that's going to compound his problems as Menetre now has even more overspeed. Down the main straight they go. Absolutely nowhere for Daniel to go except for defensive up the inside. This is the same way he got that 5th position after all. Now Menetre looking to swoop all the way through. A little bit of a twitch there. And they're going to remain single file. And what a defensive drive from Nagy Daniel here. And keep on to that 5th spot. Does not want to give it up. Has to hold on for about 5 minutes. That's not going to be an easy task. But if we can see that a couple more times, I will not be complaining.
No, definitely not. And don't forget, we've got this battle going on for 7th as well, which isn't too dissimilar to the one we're having for 5th. It's pretty reminiscent, and Mendes just getting squeezed. Had a little bit of a twitch through turn 1 there and couldn't quite fight on the outside. And once again, these S's are just painful sitting behind. You're just staring at the rear wing of the car in front of you, and you're just gripping onto your steering wheel, just doing kind of like a Jeremy Clarkson and just moving back and forth. You want to get past so badly, but it's so close yet so far. And oh, here we go again. Once again, round Spoon we go. He's on the AstroTurf. That's fairly touch and go. It's not the ideal line, but Daniel getting pushed to the outside, and Menetre going to have another go down into 130R.
You have to, surely. There's not a lot of time left. A big cut to the inside. Has the inside line this time. It was a very late move. Gets that done. Keeps it to the inside, but a little bit of extra speed carried by Daniel is going to keep him ahead for now, but a big late move on the brakes to the outside for Menetre is going to try and put Daniel's line off a little bit, and I think that's been very successful as we're seeing side by side, further back as well. Ferdinand trying to make his way up into 7th place. You've got Mendes just behind. They're side by side up in front as well. Menatre is going to hold on to that one, I think. Has done. And up at the 5th position there, but side by side to 130R, it's all going on
Menetre's
here.
off.
Oh!
Menetre's off into the wall. That's his front wing damage. Not sure if he has suspension as well. I was paying attention to that gap, and it just got that tiny bit bigger. Here's what happened. It gets so close into turn 1, now into turn 2. Menetre going very, very wide on the outside and just gets too early on throttle. Oh, that's really spoiled that battle. I was looking forward to that one.
It has indeed. A bit further back, Mendes did not get back past Habsburg there. 2.5 minutes left in this 40-minute race then. What are we thinking? Because it has been a very action-packed first 15 minutes of the race. Not much happened in the middle. And then for the last 5-10 minutes, we just had cars going off left, right, and center. We've had guys side by side pretty much every single lap. It's been all over the place. Oh, and now we've got a battle for second place brewing up for the final laps of the race. What more could you possibly want? 2 laps to go. And we've got Olsen and Langeveld now separated by about a second. Langeveld in the slipstream, just about. And doing about 0.3 of a second quicker laps each time by. The problem that Langeveld has is the best overtaking opportunity is pretty much the first corner. It's not an easy one to do, and he's not close enough to make it happen this time by. He will get 1 more opportunity into the first corner, and he'll get 2 more opportunities into the final corner. That's all Niels has. Is that enough to try and catch up and also make that move for second place?
Yeah, it's I think his first goal, to be honest, he's not got long left, like you said. He just needs to get into that slipstream, otherwise he's not going to have any chance. And Olsen is just, and I do mean just, holding on for now. It's about 9/10 between them, as I think Olsen does need to put his foot down just that tiny bit more, as it still stays at about 9/10 of a second. And yeah, I think Olsen might have 1 more lap to defend against Langeveld, but I mean, one man that hasn't had to defend for a while, you could in first. I mean, like you said, we spoke about him for like the first 15 minutes, and then past that, he's just shot into the distance and not looked in his mirrors at all.
Yeah, into the final corner now. Still 30 seconds left on the clock. And for that reason, we will see Barney the Flagman waving the white flag for Danny and Kadea this time by up on the top right-hand corner of the gantry. And now starting this final lap of the race. And Langeveld not close enough to Olsen. I think Olsen's safe. I'm saying it. I think he's safe. I think he's done enough. He's kept that gap about as big as it could have been for the longest time.
Habsburg's off.
Again?
Yeah, I don't know quite what happened there. He was doing quite well in 7th place, and is this going to be? It's going to be the death curve.
It's so sad to watch. It's terrible because you see the car is completely fine, and then it just goes over the tip of the curb, and then immediately the car's like, I don't want to face this way anymore. I quite like looking at what's behind me.
Oh, look at Langeveld!
Oh!
Again! Whew, he's one lucky boy. I think that's the second time he's done that. He does not look happy at all.
He's lucky enough to still be driving after the first time it happened.
Yeah.
Now it happens again. That is... Yeah, do not buy... Oh, he's hit the curb. That's a bit different. It's a bit different. He hit the first curb. I warned the drivers. I warned everybody about hitting the first curb. And, well, unfortunately for Niels, he decided to hit the first curb anyway on this final lap of the race. And that is what's going to happen to you. And unfortunately now is kind of in the best no man's land possible, because you've got a 6-second gap between first and second, a 6-second gap between second and third, a 6-second gap between third and fourth. They're coming around into the Casio Triangle for what will be the final time. The checkered flag is out, and for that number 7, Dallara F317 of Danny Junkadea, it is victory here at Suzuka for this Rebel Team Pro Exhibition event. Nathan Olsen will finish in second place. We didn't really see that one coming, but a very, very good drive, has to be said, for Olsen. Made a good couple moves, but also kept it cool when he needed to. The most Langerfeld, a couple spins, otherwise could have been right up there with Junkadea, but third place for Niels Langerfeld. You've got Daniel Morad, 9 seconds back after the first lap, manages to come back and finish in 4th position. A great comeback drive and some brilliant overtaking done by Morad in this race. Nagy Daniel with some beautiful defensive driving in the last few laps of this race as well. Menetrade there going off the circuit, but still finishes in 6th position, so a good job done there. And a few drivers still driving. What has gone on here? What is going on here? Mendes has just let through Habsburg.
What?
Okay.
I agree.
Was it a slowdown?
I don't. He lost 10 seconds. Well, not.
No, he slowed down.
Yeah.
Why?
What?
Okay, well that happened, and that is the end of the race because nobody else is on the circuit. A couple retirements, let's say, in this race. We will have a look through the race results, and we'll just take a look here because you've got your top 10 on the screen right now. So Junkadea taking the victory. Very, very solid drive. Pretty much zero mistakes being made the whole time. Just absolutely solid. Nathan Olsen in second. Lovely performance. Niels Langerfeld, couple spins. Morad, very nice overtaking. I think probably the best overtakes that we've seen in pretty much all race. I would say only second to Nagy Daniel for that move around the outside to get that 5th position, and then the defensive driving to hold on to it near the end as well. A beautiful performance by that number 14 machine. Fabian Menetrate taking home 6th, and then the strange switcheroo of Ferdinand Habsburg and Leandro Mendes. Not too sure what's happened there, but you know that it happened. We watched it. It did certainly happen. And then we've got a couple more drivers that ended up retiring from this race. Pau Duran retiring in the S's, Bortolotti, Mune, Jordanovsky, and Antonio Felix da Costa not finishing this race. And if Lewis presses that next driver button one more time, drum roll please. Is it going to happen? Is it not going to happen? I don't think he's going to do it. I think he's saving you. It doesn't work. Okay. That's unfortunate, but it saved Aaron Smith from maybe a little bit more embarrassment, even though he still felt it. I think he still felt it. But that rounds out our race results, and that race had a little bit of everything.
Yeah, it did. I mean, we had some really, really close battles, and when I say really close, I mean really close. We had some side-by-side action through pretty much every corner, I'm pretty sure. Some wacky mistakes, some weird moments, like at the end. But yeah, in the end, I thoroughly enjoyed that one, and I think you'd agree.
Yeah, it was a fantastic race, and to see some really big names in motorsports take to the track. That's something that in sim racing we do see quite often, but it's always still really cool when you do see it. So that was a very cool thing. I am just going to quickly go through, as we reach the end of this broadcast, what we have coming up. Because, of course, this is a pro exhibition race. We got some pro drivers on the track, F3s, Suzuka, everyone having a great time. But this is a precursor to what is to come. A 4-round championship starting this Saturday, the Rebel Team Cup 2023. And what it is it's a 4-round championship, couple different cars, couple different tracks, and the champion, the winning prize, the top prize is 2 VIP tickets to the 24 Hours of Le Mans 2023. That is a very good prize, but what do you have to do to get that prize? Well, you've got to do 4 races, And those 4 races are all about as different from each other as you can get. You've got 6th of May this weekend, this Saturday, Bathurst and GT3 cars. That is going to be very difficult for you, but I'm looking forward to seeing how that pans out. Next weekend, you've got the Red Bull Ring in F3 cars. They swapped these two around. This was originally Red Bull Ring, now it's Suzuka. So round 2 is going to be at Red Bull Ring in these F3 cars, so we get to see the F3 cars back as well. Watkins Glen in the LMDH, the BMW LMDH. That's going to be great fun. Watkins Glen always provides us with fantastic racing. And then probably my favourite combination of the lot, Le Mans in LMP2 cars to round off the season. Being the F3 merchant that you are, Aaron, what are you looking forward to the most?
Honestly, I'm going to agree with you. Le Mans LMP2.
Good man.
It's genuinely, it's ever since they released that LMP2 car, even though they tweaked it when they released the BMW, it's still amazing around that track. You can't explain it, but it's a feel-good moment. And I mean, you know, even I'd rather do that than the F3s, and that's saying something. It's so much fun. I love Le Mans, I love the LMP2, and that's going to be such a good race.
And before we wrap up, I am just going to say there's a couple drivers on today's grid that have a bit of an unfair advantage, so it's probably a good thing that they're not able to compete in that championship. That championship is open to all. That is an amateur tournament. That is not for these pro drivers to compete in. But that's a good thing because we have 2 Le Mans winners in the LMP2 category. 2 World Endurance champions in the LMP2 category on our grid today. We had Antonio Felix da Costa, who did it last year, and Ferdinand Habsburg did it in 2021. Also managed to win the Asian Le Mans series in LMP2 as well, so really just had an absolute life year in 2021 in that LMP2 campaign. But that is everything for today from the Rebel Team Pro Challenge Exhibition event. It has been F3 Cars at Suzuka. I have been Dane Baird alongside Aaron Smith, Lewis Ward up in the production trailer. Thank you very much all for joining us, and we hope to see you on Saturday for the start of the Rebel Team Cup 2023. But for now, from myself, from Aaron Smith, and from everyone else here at Apex Racing TV, good night and happy racing.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.